If you feel like the ground is shifting under your feet when it comes to social media, well, you're not wrong. The rules we've all been following for the last decade, they're being completely torn up and rewritten. So, for the next few minutes, we're going to dive into a totally new playbook for 2026. We'll break down exactly how you can win when the game itself has fundamentally changed.
Okay, let's just jump right in with a big, kind of provocative question. Why are your followers becoming irrelevant? I know, it sounds harsh, but it's the truth. That core idea that a massive follower count equals success, it's officially dead. The algorithms have moved on, and it's time for us to move on too. So here's our roadmap for this. First, we'll look at why the old playbook is so broken. Then we'll get into the new golden rule. Relevance is the new reach. We'll tackle that tricky balancing act between AI and just being human, explore why your brand needs multiple personalities, or side quests, and the tension between speed and, well, sameness. And then we'll wrap it all up with the new strategic mindset you absolutely need to have. All right, let's start with a little reality check. The foundational rules that built social media marketing as we know it, they're gone. Strategies that were considered gospel just a couple of years ago are now actually holding you back. And this slide really just lays it all out, doesn't it? The shift is so clear. You see the old way on the left, just hoarding followers, hammering home one single brand voice, and sticking to these rigid, predictable content calendars. But now, look to the right. That's the future. It's all about quality reach with the right people, having a fragmented identity that actually adapts to each platform, and embracing super fast, constant experimentation. It's a complete change in philosophy. And that brings us to what is probably the single most important idea in this entire explainer. Relevance is the new reach. This is the core principle that changes everything else. Seriously, understanding this one concept is non-negotiable if you want to succeed in 2026. So how do the algorithms even measure relevance? Well, they do it through something called micro-behaviors. We're talking about the tiniest little signals, how long you pause on a video, whether you rewatch a 3-second clip. These subtle actions are now way more powerful clues for the algorithm than an actual like or a comment. They signal genuine interest, even when you don't actually click anything. And look, this isn't just some theory. The platforms themselves are telling us this is what's happening. As Hootsuite pointed out, there's a reason almost all of the weekly reels from Adam Mosseri, head of Instagram, focus on reach. Think about it. He almost never talks about follower growth. It's all about reach. When the guy in charge is telling you what he values, it's probably a good idea to listen. So here's the bottom line. The game is no longer about collecting followers. It's about consistently signaling your relevance to the right audience, over and over again. A deep, real understanding of who you're talking to, that's your biggest competitive advantage now. Now, this intense focus on relevance and authenticity leads us straight to our next big shift, that balancing act between human and AI. Look, using AI for efficiency, that's just table stakes now. Everybody's doing it. The real differentiator, the new premium, is proving there's a real, live person behind the curtain. And this Talkwalker data shows it perfectly. Just look at the sentiment around the term AI slop. It's crazy negative. People hate it. But then you look at AI-generated content, and the response is much more balanced, almost curious. What this tells us is that audiences are totally fine with AI as a tool, but they absolutely reject lazy, uncurated, robotic output. And just so we're all on the same page here, when we say AI slop, we're talking about those repetitive, low-quality outputs that just feel like they were published without a human ever even looking at them. It's content that lacks soul, lacks judgment, and lacks originality. So how do you fight back against this perception of robotic, machine-made content? Well, you lean into human imperfection. We're seeing these brilliant tactics like typo marketing. Core's famous refreshment campaign was just a masterclass. That intentional mistake was a clever, purposeful signal that basically screamed, a human made this. It proved their authenticity and, of course, got everyone talking. That need for authenticity leads us right into our next big idea. The monolithic, one-size-fits-all brand voice. It's dead. To really connect with different communities, your brand needs to go on what we can basically call side quests. The Washington Post is a perfect example of this in action. On X, formerly Twitter, they're exactly what you'd expect. A traditional, no-nonsense news source. But go over to their TikTok, it's fast, it's chaotic, it's filled with personality-driven explainers for a totally different audience. It's the same core brand, but with completely different identities. And why is this so necessary? Because different generations are living in entirely different cultural worlds. Gen Alpha thrives on this kind of absurdist chaos. Gen Z and millennials connect over themes of burnout and work/life balance. And Gen X, well, they respond to nostalgia and reclaiming those 80s and 90s aesthetics. You simply cannot speak to all of them with the same voice. It won't work. So the goal here isn't to be fake, right? It's to be flexible. You have to hold on tight to your core brand truths, while at the same time crafting these adaptable personas that feel totally native to the culture of each and every platform you're on. Of course, this creates a massive challenge, which brings us to the central tension that pretty much every social team is dealing with right now, that constant algorithmic demand for speed versus the very real risk of burnout and just creating generic, forgettable stuff. There's actually a term for it now, fast verticing. It's this intense, immense pressure to respond to trends and cultural moments within hours to stay relevant. If you're quick, you're in the conversation. If you're slow, you might as well be invisible. But that speed comes with a huge risk. This number right here is so important. 39% of marketers say their rushed, trend-chasing content totally flopped. That's nearly 4 out of every 10 times. Prioritizing speed over quality leads to failure a lot of the time. And here's the paradox, the real trap. When every single brand jumps on the exact same trend at the exact same time, the entire feed starts to look the same. Your attempt to be relevant actually just makes you blend in, and that precious differentiation you're fighting for just vanishes. So, how in the world do you navigate all of this? It takes a fundamental shift in your strategic mindset. You have to stop thinking like a publisher and start acting like a creator, and also like a researcher. So here it is. This is your new playbook, broken down into 4 really actionable steps. First, you have to divorce your success metrics from follower growth. Focus on quality reach instead. Second, use AI for speed, sure, but always insist on human judgment to avoid that AI slop. Third, you've got to intentionally map out your brand's different side quest personas for each platform. And finally, restructure your team to value creator skills, like being good on camera, telling stories, over just traditional publishing skills, like scheduling posts. I'm going to leave you with one final question to take back to your team. In the world of 2026, you really have to ask yourselves, is our team built to simply publish content, or are we truly built to create it? Because the answer to that question is going to define your success.